Hey everybody, Dr. David Evans here. I want to thank you for tuning in to part two of our segment today on the PIC TV Network News. We're so excited for all of you who are watching with us on our network tonight. We thank God for Pastor Eric B. Jefferson from Baltimore. He is a principal in the school system there in Baltimore, and also Jerome Bowie from Capitol Heights, Maryland. He has a feeding program and helps people from all over the world get food, which is an amazing blessing in the midst of COVID-19. I'm Dr. David Evans, your host for our News Now channel on the PIC TV network. How you doing today, Jeff?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Dr. Evans. We continue to keep fighting for another day.
That's right.
You know, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we're good. How you doing, Jerome?
Oh man, God is good. I'm doing wonderful. Just good to be in the land of living. So wonderful.
Yeah. Let's get right into it. You know, last night we saw the verdict for George Floyd, and we were talking last night about how he has literally changed the world, but we still have a lot of work to do. I received a call last night from one of the parishioners, and she told me her son got shot, and I prayed for him. We sent the prayer alert out today, and thank God he is recovering after being shot several times. So we still have a lot of work to do, Pastor Jeff. Tell me about being a principal in the school system, and how do you see the world has changed towards us getting better from this situation?
Well, I think one of the things that we really have to do is, as people in leadership, is really create this anti-racist push, this movement. One of the things that I do in my school is I'm professionally developing teachers to create these anti-racism. So you really have to sit at the table and talk about it. You have to talk about Jim Crow. You have to talk about the intentional laws that were created to separate and to oppress. And you really have to put it in the forefront of the racist mind that, you know, it wasn't that long ago. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. The last school in Anne Arundel County Public Schools did not desegregate to 1966. Montgomery County did not desegregate to 1955. A year after Brown Board versus Education, it was 12 years after Brown versus Board of Education for Anne Arundel County. So, and let's be honest, 1966 is not that long ago. You're talking 54 years ago, which is not a very long time in the grand scheme of everything of the history of the United States. So we can't be afraid to talk about the intentionalities of laws and redlining and all those things that were intentional to keep Black and brown brothers and sisters down. So we really have to talk about it. We have to come to the table, and not to make people feel bad, but to make them realize that they did create laws that kept us separated. They did create laws that kept us down. They did create laws that would not transfer the power and the transfer of the wealth. I think all of this, Dr. Evans, is all about the transfer of wealth. Wealth when it comes to money, wealth when it comes to family, wealth when it comes to knowledge. Is that they are afraid of the transfer of wealth, because if they transfer the wealth, then they equal the playing field. And when the playing field becomes equal, they understand that we're going to outthink them. We're going to be smarter than them. We're going to do what's best for us. And so in order to keep us from moving forward, they keep us fighting with each other. And so being in the school system, we really, really, really have to teach our young Latino and Black boys and girls that stop fighting each other and really fight for each other instead of fighting each other in battle, and really collectively coming together to move the work and to move the purpose forward. But we do have to teach them to be anti-racist. We do have to address teachers and who are really, having a negative influence on our students, regardless if the school system was designed for Black and brown kids. We that have positions of power must change that, and that's what we have to do. We have to call out racist remarks when they are. We have to call out negative words that come out with our Black and brown kids. We have to call out those teachers who are writing the same referral for their white counterpart with less aggressive words than they would an African American boy or Latino boy or girl. So we have to call those things out. And when we see something, we have to say something. I think that's how you really go about changing the generation that's behind us, to get them to understand where we come from, but also too that we have to continue to fight. We can't celebrate too long because we really have to continue to fight.
That's really big. When I think about, you being a school teacher, and there's so many people watching around the world right now, on our PIC TV network news. Being in the school system is a very important responsibility. I taught at Marriott Title High School,
Mm-hmm.
and also I did some teaching also at Howard University. Sociology, religion was my topic that I taught for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And being in the school system, being a principal, man, which you are, is a major responsibility, man, because it's really big. It's really big, man. And when you have kids who've been home all of these months, being able to be homeschooled, and
Mm-hmm.
and when you're looking at the George Floyd situation, you have to deal with the psychological aspect of kids, the mental aspect of kids. What are they going through? How do they respond? Some of them may need some counseling and helping and follow up after watching something big like this. This is really major. That's going to make.
Dr. Evans, this is huge. I mean, there's studies out there now that shows that just not kids, but adults, with all of the major shootings. There have been over 5,000 shootings in the last 5 years. There's a study done by Yale. And the study was done also, too, that African Americans in this country right now are dealing with trauma. These are trauma-sensitive issues. And so every time we see on the news, unarmed Black man gets shot by police, every time we see on the news, someone is dying that is African American, it presents trauma. And what does trauma do? Trauma, lack of sleep. When we don't sleep, then our bodies don't heal itself properly. And so that lack of sleep then goes into health issues. And so it's a trickle down effect from the trauma that we've seen on TV, from the trauma when we step foot out our front doors, to the trauma that lack of sleep, stress eating, then it leads to high blood pressure, leads to all of these other things, health impediments, just because of the traumatic experiences that not only that we may not have actually felt, but we're seeing them every single day. Every time you cut on the news, there's something. And what makes it even more traumatic is that a lot of these cops are getting off because the DA is not presenting a case to even get the cop even charged with anything more than a second degree unintentional murder, or not even putting those things before the grand jury, because the DA and the police have to work together in order to solve cases. So a lot of police departments say if the DA goes after one of us, we're going to withhold evidence. We're going to withhold a lot of things so they won't be able to close their cases. And so I really think that for every shooting that happens, there needs to be an independent district attorney that comes in and tries that case from another county or from another state, because we are seeing the traumatic effects, not only from COVID, but also from the police shootings, and is exacerbating real quick, and is metastasizing real quick in our Black community.
Perspective, the world is watching, and I'm so happy to have you as a principal. Being a principal, again, I can't emphasize it enough, a high school principal. I salute you and respect you to be an African-American man. There's a lot of principals out today, and you deal with the faculty, the staffs, the student, from all aspects of levels, and when you look at this situation, we need people like you speaking up so we can help. And in this regard, this is something that one person can't do. We need everybody pulling together, supporting together. And I think, especially from the African American standpoint, when I was teaching at Howard, the first day I walked into class, the first thing I say to the students, you're not going to fail. But you're not going to fail, because most of us, I know how it is to sit in a seat and say, I'm not going to pass this class. I'm not going to make it, because I've been told that all my life,
right?
And then when you sit in the class, especially when it's a challenging subject, whether it's math, whether it's science, whether it's, whatever subject you're going through, there is the challenge of learning. And if you're not a fast thinker like that, you automatically process up, I can't do it. So I ease their minds. And a lot of these were adults. I said, you're not going to fail. I said, the problem is not the students can't learn, it's teachers can't teach. And I promise you, you stay in this class, you're gonna pass. And at that time, I had an idea to do contract grading. Well, the contract grading that I came up with back in 1997 was nobody would fail if you only come and do a certain amount of assignments, because you got people who are A students, B students, C students, D students. But if you do what you qualified to do, and I do contract grading, they already know if they do this amount of assignments, they're not going to fail.
Right.
And I think it's very important to educate our folk, because education is the process of learning. And we put people in position, such as yourself, being a principal and a former teacher, not only in high school, I too. And I tell every parent, when I taught at Marriott Charter High School, I said, every parent, just take off one day and just peep through the window. Just take off and see your child.
Just come show. Just come see. That's it.
Yes, I bet a lot of parents know about that, being home students, home teachers now.
Right. But we really have to hone in on Generation Z, and really focus our attention on their learning. That's the generation that wants to know why. And we have to be able to tell them our why, but we also got to be able to explain why things are happening, so they can have a better understanding of, how they can navigate through all of this. And so one of the things that we really push is not only thinking in the education system, but we also push independent thinking. But we as the adults cannot be afraid to tell the lower millennials and Generation Z, we can't be afraid to tell our testimony of where we come from, or how we got to the place where we are, whether it be, in business, in church. We have to tell our testimony, but we have to do it in the way that shows them our purpose, so they can have a sense of purpose and a sense of direction. We're losing that generation because we don't want to share.
It's very important. I want to bring Jerome Bowie into the conversation too, and I see Dwayne Freeman is also coming on. Pastor Bowie, when you have grandkids, man, and I talk to you almost every day when they come over, and you had a tragic situation that happened with your son, and you taking on those kids, man. They are yours. You work with them. How do you feel being a granddad, raising kids today, Jerome, and teaching them, man, and helping them to understand what's going on in this world today?
One thing for sure, like My two oldest grandkids are 15 and 16, and we have talks all the time. And so, Pastor, like you were just saying earlier, we have to communicate, even with your kids, your family. I explained to them that we have to celebrate and be thankful for a lesser conviction, someone being convicted on a lesser charge, like a second or third degree murder charge, instead of first degree murder. But we have to celebrate for what it is. And I explained to them that we have to be thankful for that, because if we would have charged this police officer with first degree murder, which he should have been charged with, he would not have been found guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he should have been
Right.
charged. We had to go with what's next to at least get some kind of conviction.
Right. Well, we got to get we got to get these DAs to even charge them.
Right. Yeah.
They hide behind the grand jury,
Yeah.
and they present the least amount of information, so the grand jury can't even make a solid decision on to bring charges or not. You know, it's happening all over this country, and they're hiding behind the grand jury because they are in cahoots with the police, because they understand, if I charge one of their counterparts, then, you know, they're going to withhold evidence from 10 other cases that I need to close. So
there you go. Wow.
so they don't take charges on one bad cop, but they're going to close these other 12 cases. And I guarantee you, out of those 12, 90% of them are probably African Americans who being represented by not a district attorney, but a public offender. Offender. And they know they're going to close those cases.
Yes. And it's been happening for the longest.
It's been happening for the longest.
Yeah, you look back in the 80s, and we got to go here for a minute. In the 80s, when the drug war was really, really crazy with the crack cocaine and the PCP, they was locking up brothers. They was locking up African Americans, locking them up. And what they would do was charge them with 2 or 3 different counts. And what they would say is, okay, we got 3 different accounts on you. You're going to have to plead guilty to one of these counts in order for us to drop the other 1 or 2. Then you could have been totally innocent on all 3 of them. So you had a lot of brothers that did time for something they didn't even do, because they pleaded guilty to something they didn't even do. But that was the best situation for them, with a court-appointed lawyer. Plead guilty to this one, they could drop the other 2. You might do 2 or 3 years. So you got people that got a lot of African Americans did 2 or 3 years from the drug game for something they didn't do. So it's always been like that, right?
Yes, it has.
It's always been like that, you know. I mean, back in the 80s, look at these charges, man. You had so many brothers locked up as people co-defendants. They only know the person who they're co-defendant with.
Exactly, and we still have brothers locked up from the Bill Clinton era, the 3 strikes you're out.
Yeah, there you go. So
and I'm a firm believer in law and order, but let's be fair.
Yes.
Let's have equal protection under the law.
There you go.
Which is what the Constitution says. Equal protection under the law. Let's be just. Let's be fair. You know, if we're gonna try the dope dealer that has 10 grams of weed, and we're gonna give him 10 years, then the cop that kills an unarmed person, at least give us the same time.
Right.
You know, give us something. You know, don't say that you know, we didn't present enough evidence to the grand jury, so that they hide behind the grand jury, and the grand jury didn't find no charges.
Right.
Same thing happened in Louisville.
Right.
You know, he purposely did not put murder as a charge.
Right.
And then purposely presented as little evidence as he could, knowing that the less evidence, the least amount of evidence that he would present, knowing that everybody was going to get off.
Right. It's always been the case. Even with the crack cocaine situation, cocaine is cocaine, whether it's cooked up or whether it's powder form.
Yep.
We have a lot of African Americans, their choice of drug was crack cocaine, so they got more time because crack cocaine was considered more serious than powder cocaine, but it's both cocaine.
Both cocaine. And this is why we have to have.
Right.
This is why we have to fight for equity.
Yes.
Equity is about access. It's about access and opportunity. You know, and we have to fight for it. We have to continue to fight for equity, for access, for opportunity. But we also got to continue to fight for social justice and liberation as well.
Yes. And Pastor Eric, you've been a principal. I pray for you every day, especially as a principal, because it's rough. You look at now, they got a lot of the whole plan even started in the 80s and 70s when they're locking all these young brothers up and all these. They figured they lock you up, give you 2 or 3 years, you get out of jail. It's gonna be hard for you to succeed after that because, like I was saying in this trial, your past is on trial.
Yep.
You're not on trial. You could be totally innocent. Somebody killed you, but your past is on trial.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going.
And we got to stop. And it's a true thing. We got to stop the prison pipeline. We got to stop from this pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
When kids can't read by 3rd grade, that's how they determine how many jails they need to build.
Right.
And they really study in the African American, they study in Black and Brown kids. And so this school to prison pipeline, it starts earlier than 3rd grade because they're determining how many prisons to build by 3rd grade, based on your reading levels. And so we really have to educate this Gen Z, and we really have to go back and see what it is that we can do. And we really have to bring, as pastors, as principals, we have to bring the access and the opportunity to our neighborhoods, to our community, to our people, in order for them to continue to fight for another day.
Yeah, it's so important. I'll say Principal Jefferson, because in my lifetime, I remember my elementary principal, and Mr. Sparrow, and then I remember my junior high school principal at Lincoln, Mr. Durso, and then I remember my high school principal, Mr. Waverly Jones at Cadoza.
Mm-hmm.
The impact that you have on people's lives is just amazing, man. And I can't commend you enough by being on here, being an example, talking to our generation and people from all over the world on the PIC TV network, having you on tonight. And also Pastor Bowie about serving and helping people in the community. You guys are just major in what we're doing together as one big family. When you're talking about a situation that took place with a young person, I hold up this book right here.
Mm-hmm.
This book is written from prison. And the prison person who wrote this book is my godson, and his name is Raymond Carter Jr. Raymond Carter Jr. was driving down a road in North Carolina when he was like 18 years old, him and his homeboys, over almost 30 years ago. And they got pulled over. Police pulled him over, just as Pastor Bowie said, took him in the custody and told his mother, if you don't sign this information, if he don't sign, he's going to get the electric chair, the gas chamber. He signed it. He's in prison right now. He's been in prison for 24 years. I talked to Raymond. He said, Godfather, if it wasn't for you, I'd probably be dead. He calls me. We talk. He wrote this book about a month ago, Born to Lose, but Destined to Win, from prison. And we all praying for Raymond Carter Jr. So what we're talking about is real. Those who are watching the PIC TV network, and we're so happy we have Eric V. Vincent. He's a high school principal in the Baltimore area. We have Jerome Bowie on today with us on the broadcast. What we're going to do, we're going to take a break. If you're watching on social media right now, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever you're watching, we want you to tell somebody that we're on our news channel, the PIC TV network. We have information, we have inspiration, we have education and entertainment just for you. So thank you for watching right now. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to come back and give you some more information. So don't touch that dial. Let somebody else know that the PIC TV network is on right now.
We've all been hurt at some point, even abandoned. Many of us have done the hurting ourselves. We get to the point where we don't trust anyone, nor do we feel worthy of being loved by anyone. Then there's that one person who just doesn't give up on loving you. Their love is unconditional. Their love stays long enough for you to heal. And then they promise to never leave. That's love you can count on. God's love.
Hey, so we're so happy for all of you watching our network today. It's an amazing blessing to have you guys on. These are servants and leaders in the community, and I'm just happy that we have a platform, the PIC TV network, that we can come on. You know, there's a lot of networks out there that's doing great things. Thank God for what they're doing on NBC, ABC, on ESPN, all the networks, whatever they're doing, Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey Network, whatever. But the PIC TV network is about you. It's about meeting the needs of the people and hearing from people like Jerome Bowie and Principal Jefferson. You know, so when we see an African American television network, how do you feel, Jerome, when you see our very own network owned by us? Because you've been there from the beginning. I want the audience to know that this is a 100% Black-owned television network. We have 60 channels. You're seeing our own commercials right now. How do you feel when you see that?
I feel it's like you feel so good inside to know that, because there's a lot of things we could have been did and always can do when we come together, put our minds together, or when we get the vision and bring it to pass. So I am so excited about this network because it's our own. And speaking of our own, I am tremendously blessed to be able to be on this network, a Black network. And I thank God for that, because Principal Jefferson, you know, I was watching the program the other day and it blew my mind. And it was about these ladies who was into different illegal stuff for all their life. And they made millions of dollars of all they was doing. But the last program I seen was a young lady who she had frauded the government out of over $10 million. She sold and made over another $15 million selling drugs. Listen to this. She sold drugs, made another $15 million selling drugs. She did all the legal stuff she can do. But at the end, she was sick. She was sick, and she found she was sick. So she was on like 30 different medications. But the thing that really caught my attention, Bishop Evans, he said our Black-owned network, what caught our attention was this young lady had millions to come through her hand. And then she's sitting in the bed, knowing she's sick. She had to tell her kids, her 3 kids, that if I die, listen to this, if I die and y'all don't have money to bury me, cremate me. You know what we did? We took all that money and gave it back to the precious. Her life, they were showing her life story. She was buying popping bottles, buying Chanel, Gucci, and Fendi bags, and all these expensive cars. She gave all that money back to the precious. So now she has did time in jail, had did this, had to pay restitution for the money she stole from the government, and then she ain't got enough money to even get buried after all that.
I think Pastor Bowie and Principal Jefferson, that we need positive role models. We need people in our community. You know, a lot of folk are looking at the the rappers, you know, and they renting these cars and this jewelry and stuff, and the role models that's on television are not the role models that we need to have. They need to be role models in our home and our communities. They need to see people like us on television talking positive, using our mind, not just our body, to be able to do what we do. A lot of people ask me all the time, Dr. Evans, why do you come on the television network and you dressing in a professional manner? Because I'm reaching all types of people. This is the reason why I come on to being a professional and on a network, you know, being a president of a network. And I feel comfortable in what I do. I was asked that today, you know, and we have to understand, and I want Principal Jefferson talk about this, the right images that we see on TV, this and on the internet that doesn't go off, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't know if some people even heard of Live Me, which is one of the hottest young people's apps that's out there. That they don't even want you on if you're over 23 years old on Live Me, because they have games and everything on it just for them. So, you know, this internet world is a whole different world that we have never even seen before. The images and things, and they can push one button on their phone, and it's crazy stuff going on. And they can lock it. You can lock the phone if you want to, and they'll break in it again. You can lock the phone, they can break in it. So talk about, I know you have to leave. I know you're kind of busy, Principal Jefferson, about the images, you know, again, that people are seeing and the role models that they're seeing on the internet. And I don't want to call them names, but they're out there every day showing their breasts, showing their body, showing their physique, and not their mind.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to be careful of is that TV gives us these images without any backstory. You know, a lot of times, and what we have done, we have really did a disservice to people because we showed them the glitz and the glamour, but we don't show them the struggle behind it. Even with all of the images that we see on TV, there was a struggle to get there. But nobody wants to talk about the struggle, or they gloss over the struggle, and all they show is the glitz and glamour. So then what happens is these kids get a false sense of imagery in their mind, saying, okay, I can be a professional basketball player, I can be a professional football player, I can be a rapper, I can be this, because they have this, they have this, they have this, but they really don't understand that's just the image that producers put out in order for you to be attracted to buy. You know, it's all in what they call algorithms. You know, if you're on Facebook and you look up something on your internet, then everything, all of your Facebook ads are going to be what you looked up, just to put that imagery in your face so you can buy. And so they calculate your algorithm, is what they call your algorithms, in order for you to eventually, you're going to purchase what you see. And that's the imagery that has been focused. And it just didn't start now. It started with, you know, when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s with the teen magazines, and you had to be skinny and blonde with straight hair. And then also all of the, you know, African-American girls were comparing themselves to a blonde with straight hair. And so we started straightening our hairs, making it long and making it longer and straightening it. And so the imagery has been out for years, because this is what the public wants the image to be. It's just now that they understand algorithms and imageries and how the mind works, they just flash it in front of you. But we do a disservice. And I think we do a disservice not only with the imagery on TV, but even sometimes with our kids, when we don't tell our kids our testimony, when we give them this false sense of things, because our kids have access to more than what we have access to. But a lot of times now they're not working for it. We're just giving it to them. And so that's a false sense of imagery, because then they think that what my mother used to say, money don't grow on trees. And so, but it gives them that false sense of money, and it gives them that false sense of imagery, thinking that you know, there's not a struggle. Sometimes a kid can get something, but the parent is upstairs crying, like, how am I going to pay this bill? And I think we have to expose people to the struggle to get to the glitz and the glamour. And if we don't expose people to the struggle, we're doing our people a disservice.
I commend you 100% being in your position and a man of God. And everybody's watching right now. You're watching the PIC TV network News Now channel. We on our own news channel, a Black-owned TV network, and we are on in Brazil, France, Argentina, Nicaragua, United States, Colombia, Mexico, Guatemala, United Kingdom, Germany, Panama. We on all over the world, literally with 60 channels. And we're here tonight talking about the George Floyd situation, and also just about life, you know, and how can we help our generation. This man changed the world by his testimony. I was trying to point. He changed the world. George Floyd changed the whole world. This man changed the whole world by what he did. His life changed the world. There you go. His life changed the world. A lot of people don't know he was a preacher. He was on a mission. George Floyd preached against violence. This man was not on a negativity. And even in the midst of him going through the last moments of his life, Pastor Bowie, he called for his mother. There's a bond, and I know that Principal Eric also knows, of your mom. My mother passed away in the late 90s, and I miss her every day. I'm a mama's boy. I'll be a mama's boy for the rest of my life. He called for his mother. And even though last night when I talked to one of the parishioners, her son, she said while he had gotten shot several times, he told the paramedics, I want my mother. This is a grown man, almost in his 50s. You know, there's a bond that we have. And I know Pastor Bowie knows what I'm talking about. And you too, about that bond that you had with your mom. And you know, how this man, he really changed the world. We always want to give homage to his life and his legacy. And George Floyd is like a brother next door. You would think nobody's high-minded and all of that. Just like somebody you just shake their hand and just say, how you doing, man? How you doing, bro? What's going on? What's happening, man? It's down to earth, just a down to earth person. And that's what I wanted us to always realize. In the PIC TV network, we're going to always honor this man and his family, you know, for the work that he's done. And even his life still speaks today. Yeah. He was born to change the world. How do you feel about that, Pastor Bowie? This man was born to change the world.
You know, one of the greatest feelings I had in this world is like, even in this day and time, my mother is still alive. I was able to go see her last week, and that's the greatest feeling in the world, to be able to go see your mother that's alive. You know, and that's, some people take it for granted that their parents are still here, but to see my mother and to hang out with her, that was a great feeling. I had a good friend of mine for years. His name was Dr. Ducey. He's from Ghana. He built a house in Ghana. He was an anesthesiologist here for years. And we've been friends for over 30 years. And he was diagnosed with cancer, and it wasn't looking well for him. And he has a nice house up here. And so the doctor told him what more they can do, and it was looking bad for him. And the first thing he said was that he wanted to go back home to be with his mother. So, you know, some people don't know that mother bomb and that son. So he had built a house out there in Ghana. On Thanksgiving morning, I took him to all his treatments for over a year and a half to the hospital, every single treatment. And he wanted to go home and be with his mother, and he was able to go home and be with his mother. And 4 months later, he left this earth. But wow, you know, he was able to go home and be with his mother. So that's a bond you can't even really talk about. Mother, son, daughter, mother. It's just a mother you can't be replaced. So wow.
Never, you know, and I'll say to that too, Pastor Bragg. Remember, you know, we've been friends over 15 years. You're going to see him. I'll say, Doc, let's go hang out and get something to eat. He said, no, I got to go take Doc to the doctor. And you telling me sometime you were there with him.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the servant of servants, man. When I look at your life, yeah. I look at how you help the homeless and help, you know, feed people and give back. And this is the same thing that George Floyd was doing. He was trying to get back, trying to change his life, trying to get on the right path, trying to do so many positive things. Again, this man was a preacher. Listen to me. He was a preacher on an assignment. He preached against violence. He was trying to help people throughout his life. And we want to keep the positivity of what he done alive, the stories, the great things that George Floyd did to change the world. And I'm so happy, Principal Jefferson, that we have a device in our hand that can go viral, that you can really push this and be your own news reporter. You can record something, it can hit the world. One push of a button can change the narrative of anything and anybody in any place at any time. This is an amazing day that we're living in today. And I believe that the phone is, and I heard it was invented by an African American too, even the cell phone. Whoever did, I'll give you a shout out. I heard this was invented by African American.
Right.
Give a shout out. But when I think about where we are today in this generation, we got to give back. And that's why we have this broadcast, this network, so we can give something back. And I'm just tired of seeing every time we turn on the news, and I think you were talking about a shooting that happened in Baltimore in your area, with that hit the major news coverage around the world. And that seemed to be magnified. But there's kids who go to school, like my son Amos, who graduated straight A student from elementary school to high school, graduated from Carnegie Mellon University. My son Stephen Evans in California, he's on the Jimmy Fallon show, helping with the music, directing the music out there. He just called me this week. So many positive young people are doing things, but they're not showcased. And there's a reason for that, Principal Jefferson, that they're not showcasing our positive young people on the front line doing things. Talk about that before we close out.
Well, I think because negative is what sells.
Right.
Negativity is what sells.
Yeah.
Reality TV becomes negative because the positive doesn't sell. So people thrive off of chaos. And when things are not chaotic, there's nothing to talk about. And so I think it's we create chaos in order to get ratings. So a African American male graduating from Morehouse, top of class, magna cum laude or summa cum laude, and goes to work, in a big company, doesn't get the press as, the teenager who carjacked and get killed by a cop. So is negativity is what sells. And I think the media pushes the negativity more than they do the positive, because you could just turn on the news and really sometimes you got to cut the news off because it's depressing, because every story on top of every story, on top of every investigative story, there's something negative that's being said. You can't turn on Baltimore news without, they're talking about a killing, without them talking about, the indictments against, the city council president and the state's attorney up there. You can't turn on the news and not get a negative story about Baltimore City. It's because people want chaos. People want the negativity. People want it because that's what sells. That's what gets ratings. And so that's why I appreciate you, Dr. Evans, for, the PIC TV News Network, because it's showing, African Americans and Latinos in a positive light. And you're broadcasting over 60 channels in 15 to 20 different countries. And so we have to write, as African Americans, we have to write our narrative. Our narrative is not about chaos. Our narrative is not about, going on viral with a fight or going viral with cussing somebody out. That's not our narrative. This is our narrative. And this is the narrative that we have to push to change the stereotypes in the minds of people. So, Dr. Evans, thank you so much for having me on here tonight. I really, really appreciate you and the passion and everything that you're doing to really push forward, as we continue to fight.
Yeah, we have to do it together, and I just believe that we're stronger when we come together as one. When we work together as one big family to fight this problem. It's not just one person. This is a monster. We're dealing with something that we've never seen before. We talk about COVID-19 and the shots and things, and people still catching COVID. He even had the shots. This is something major. And Pastor Bowie and you, both of you guys had COVID-19. And thank God you're alive to be on this broadcast to talk about it.
Yeah.
I didn't have it. I had been tested several times, but that's a big overcoming blessing to be alive to survive COVID-19. And we have a show called COVID-19 Heroes Life Stories. We talk about that later. But when Pastor Jerome had been on that show, this is why we have on the PIC TV network 4 things we do before we close out. We're not a traditional television network where you'll just see things popping on like the Jeffersons or Sanford and Son, or we had wonderful time growing up watching Good Times. And I know Bernadette Stannis Thelma as personal friend. Matter of fact, she'll be coming on doing the interview real soon. But we're not that network. We're not the Cosbys. We coming with, first of all, inspiration. That's why we have our own news. We have inspirational speakers on. Bishop Noel Jones, he's on 24/7 on our Gospel Life channel. Then we have information. With COVID-19, we have to be informed about what's going on every day from our perspective. You guys have a testimony of having COVID-19 that they're not talking about on the news. They're not talking about on the major networks, but you can talk about it, your experience. That's why we have these channels are designed for those who want to hear your voice. The PIC TV network is based upon inspiration, information, education, because education is a process of learning. That's why we have the principal on today, who is talking about what's happening from his school in our community, raising our kids. That is called education, the process of learning. We have to have professionals on. We have doctors. We have our own Black Health channel, diabetes, cholesterol, high blood pressure, who professionals coming on speaking on the PIC TV network. We have them on, and we have entertainment, of course, with music and movies and all of that. I think the holistic need, we have to change the dynamic, the psychic of watching television, and this is why we have the PIC TV network, that we can present our 60 channels that will do something more than just make you laugh, make you just smile. No, we want to put something in your mind, like we're talking tonight, so we can help our people. I want to thank you for being with us tonight. This is part 2. We're going to do part 3 tomorrow of our segment. We got some people calling me right now saying, I can't wait till tomorrow to be a part of our talking segment. Thank you, Jerome, for coming on. When they help, his goal is to build the largest homeless shelter in the world. And we're going to talk about him and his dad and how he overcame meeting his dad. It's just amazing. His life story about his father who's passed away, how God allowed him to meet his father after 40 years missing out of his life. He met his dad. And he loved his dad until he left this earth. That's the boy. I'm going to give you 1 minute, man. Just a teaser, man. Talk about that for 1 minute, man.
Oh yeah, my father, who was and my mother had broke up, and I was about 5, 6 years old. He told my mother that he was moving to California. He was taking my 2 older brothers with him. My mother had 6 kids, 4 boys, 2 girls. And I remember my 2 older boys sitting on the porch waiting for him to come and get him, because he said he was moving to California. He would take 2 older boys with him. But he moved to California, but he didn't take nobody with him. They would sit there from morning to night. He never showed up. And nobody heard from my father after 40 years after that. His mother haven't heard from his sisters and brothers. I had buried 2 of his brothers and 1 of his sisters, and had buried his mother. And nobody still haven't heard from him. And 40 years later, like I said, my wife got a phone call saying someone was in the hospital. It might be some kin to me. And lo and behold, was my father. He was in the hospital because he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and He had collapsed, and he was homeless all most of that time. We was trying to find him, looking for him. He was in Maine. He was homeless, and come to find him, majority of that time he was gone. He was homeless, and he never used Social Security number. We paid people to try to find him, but make a long story short, he came back into our life. Me and my wife, he came here, stayed with us. We nursed him back to health. My mother, after all the time, wanted to be his caregiver. My mother and my oldest brother, and we left him back to life. He got to see his kids, grandkids. The only reason why we got to get reunited, because one thing he remembered on that bed was he remember he had 6 kids, and he knew all our names. But I was the only one still had the same phone number after 27 years. So he called my house and we reunited. And his last 3 years of his life was the best years of his life. We took care of him, nursed him back to life, and God sent him on home 2 years later. And I had to do his eulogy, and I'll tell you, you got to meet his grandkids, his kids, his great grandkids. So that's a book in the makers right now. The Power of Forgiveness. No one blamed him, nobody talked about him. We forgave him, loved on him, and took him to football games and enjoyed the last 3 years we had with him. Wow. So stay tuned for that. The Power of Forgiveness.
That was amazing testimony. With him being in your life, which is a tremendous blessing. And I'm just excited, happy to see my good friend for many, many years, Bishop Mark Freeman. He's going to be on our next segment that we're going to have on right after this. And I'm excited for all of you who are watching right now. We're going to be doing part 3 on the life of George Floyd, who changed the world, and how we're using our information today to help people. So we're going to come back in part 3 right after this. And I want to thank you again for watching. Those of you who are on from all over the world watching our PIC TV network, and our families and friends, tell them we're going to do part 3. And we're looking forward to some information that we're going to be sharing with you right after this. Thank you for your time.
We've all been hurt at some point, even abandoned. Many of us have done the hurting ourselves.
Thank you.
We get to the point where we don't trust anyone, nor do we feel worthy of being loved by anyone. Then there's that one person who just doesn't give up on loving you. Their love is unconditional. Their love stays long enough for you to heal. And then they promise to never leave. That's love you can count on. God's love.